Chapter 1141. Lin Zhe sat in the private room and accompanied her for a while. Everyone watched as he busied himself with drinks, fruits, and things for Gu Shengyin. Only when he was facing Gu Shengyin did he not look like a cold general manager at all. Instead, he was a man who wholeheartedly tried to please his girlfriend. Many girls were extremely envious of Gu Shengyin. Look at her boyfriend. He was handsome, rich, and most importantly, he was so good to her. But on second thought, they didn't have Zhong Zhonghuan's persistence in giving up everything to pursue a man. They didn't have Zhong Zhonghuan's talent in design. They didn't have her status as the only heir of the Zhong Corporation. Thinking about it this way, since they were so much worse than him, what right did they have to be jealous of him? Perhaps it was because Lin Zhe's affections were too obvious that even Cece, who was obviously on Gu Shengyin's side at the beginning, wavered. When they left, Cece even tugged at Gu Shengyin and said that there weren't many men who could treat their girlfriends as well as Lin Zhe, not to mention that he was so well off. Cece said, "Zhonghuan, don't throw a tantrum or anything. That's enough. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if his heart really turned cold." Gu Shengyin only listened and didn't say anything. How long had it been since Lin Zhe? It hadn't even been a month, and she was afraid that his heart would turn cold? Back then, she had pursued him for 2 whole years. Lin Zhe's devotion to her was called affection. Was Zhong Zhonghuan's 2 years really so worthless? When Chong Ru left, she specially came to look for Gu Shengyin. Don't agree to him too easily, Zhonghuan. Men would never cherish things that were too easy to obtain. You've done so much for him in those 2 years and put on airs. Zhonghuan, you're a precious girl. You have to be reserved. Take yourself seriously. That's more important than anything else. Just based on these 2 sentences, Gu Shengyin felt that this girl could be befriended. As expected, Gu Shengyin thought to herself, Chong Ru is still very rational when she's normal. He did not know why she was so paranoid in the original plot. At the entrance of the first floor, Gu Shengyin saw a car stop in front of Chong Ru. Then, a very beautiful Caucasian girl got out of the car. She took the bag from Chong Ru and the 2 of them kissed face to face before Chong Ru got into the car. Gu Shengyin watched the car drive away. None of the students present felt that the 2 of them were abnormal. There was even a classmate who sighed with emotion. The class leader's relationship with her roommate is really good. I heard that her roommate is her boss who was transferred from the head office. Why can't I find such a good roommate? Gu Shengyin smiled and said nothing. She said goodbye to everyone, rejected Lin Zhe's request to send her home, and drove home by herself. Half a year passed. Lin Zhe still couldn't catch up to Zhong Zhonghuan. However, everyone in the city's business circle knew that the general manager of the Lin Corporation was madly infatuated with the eldest daughter of the Zhong family, the famous designer in the country, Miss Zhong Zhonghuan. The general manager of the Lin Corporation, Lin Zhe, gave everyone the impression that he was like a piece of ice that could not be heated. Only when he pursued Zhong Zhonghuan did he seem like a passionate fire. However, the eldest daughter of the Zhong family was like a high and mighty flower. Even someone like the general manager of the Lin Corporation could not win the heart of a beauty. There were even busybodies who bet on whether the general manager of the Lin Corporation could win the beauty's heart in the end. If he could, how long would it take? Chapter 1142. Zhong Zhonghuan stayed in China for more than half a year. After that, she began to fly around the world. Sometimes, she had to attend fashion shows in several different countries within a month. Sometimes, she would stay in a remote town in a small country for half a year to find inspiration. Even Father Zhong often didn't see his daughter for months or even half a year. But Lin Zhe was different. Basically, as long as he had time, or if he didn't have time, he would try his best to shorten the time and deal with everything in one go. Then, he would follow Gu Shengyin around the world. Gu Shengyin lived in a beautiful and remote town in the Western Hemisphere. He would stay there for a week. Then, under Secretary Wang's desperate calls, he would fly back to China to deal with the company's affairs. He would definitely go to Gu Shengyin's fashion shows. When the reporters took photos of the guests, they could always take photos of the low-key man sitting in the guest seats, who was no worse than any male model. Over time, even the Western media knew that there was a mysterious handsome man from the East who had been silently pursuing the famous designer Miss Zhong Zhonghwan. There were even newspapers that recorded this. The media began to consciously search for a certain figure in every fashion show where Gu Shengyin was present. The fashion industry not only advocated fashion and platinum, but also liked romance. And Lin Zhe's approach was undoubtedly the most romantic. "I will spend all the time I can spare to accompany you for the rest of my life." Lin Zhe didn't expect that he would gain a large number of fans. Even under Gu Shengyin's social media account, fans began to congratulate the two of them on their relationship. When Gu Shengyin saw this, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But she also didn't expect that Lin Zhe, who was like a block of wood, would learn such a romantic thing without a teacher. With the rise of fame, Gu Shengyin also began to become busier and busier. And the busier she was, the faster time would pass. A year passed in the blink of an eye. Gu Shengyin was still flying around the world, and Lin Zhe was still following her everywhere. Secretary Wang now knew why his boss paid so much attention to the fashion industry. Not only Secretary Wang, but all the employees of Lin Group knew that their iceberg-like handsome general manager had been chasing Zhong Zhonghwan for 2 years. Seeing the general manager's posture of pursuing someone, many people sighed. Their general manager wasn't an iceberg. He was clearly a dormant volcano. He was so unromantic in the past, but he hadn't met the person who made him willing to be enlightened. The general manager's romantic attitude instantly killed a group of self-proclaimed romantic scums. However, the future general manager's wife was indeed hard-hearted. Many girls expressed that if there was a perfect man as handsome and rich as the general manager pursuing them, they estimated that they could only be reserved for a week at most. No, 3 days at most, no more than that. Was the general manager's wife's sexual orientation? People's Day Zhonghuans started to persuade her. Father Zhong had also called her. "Zhonghuan, father has been watching Linza for more than a year. Linza is indeed sincere to you. No matter how angry you are, you should be appeased. I see that you have feelings for him. That's enough." A father knew his daughter best. Father Zhonghuan's father had seen through Gu Shengyin's thoughts. Chapter 1143. The one who made Gu Shengyin the most speechless was Ladle. This guy actually came over to look for her once. "Zhong, I think the man who's pursuing you is really not bad. I can't compare to him. If you choose another man in the future, I won't be convinced. But if it's him, I'm convinced." Had he even conquered his love rival? The annual ADE selection had already begun. After 3 months of seclusion, Gu Shengyin finally submitted her work at an international fashion week show. The hall was filled with cheers. Then, there was waiting. After 2 months of waiting, all the designers were waiting for the award that symbolized the highest pursuit of the fashion world. As if he knew how nervous and confused she was, Lin Zhe even tried his best to reduce his rest time and forcefully gave himself a month to wait with her. Lin Zhe's mother, the strong madam, was initially dissatisfied with Gu Shengyin. In her opinion, a daughter-in-law who had too much influence on her son wasn't a good thing for the Lin family and Lin Zhe. However, Lin Zhe, who had always been filial, was uncharacteristically insistent on this matter. Then, Lin Zhe used 2 years to change his mother's mind. Mother Lin's only hope now was that Miss Zhong, who was loved to the bone by her son, could turn around and look at Lin Zhe, who had been chasing after her. She hoped that she could open her heart and accept Lin Zhe. The one who doted on her child the most was always the mother. Mrs. Lin couldn't bear to see Lin Zhe working so hard. During this month, Lin Zhe accompanied Gu Shengyin. The two of them abandoned all work and things to tour various places. Finally, it was the most important day for Gu Shengyin. The final results of the ADE selection were announced. One by one, the awards were announced until the final moment. The winner of this year's AFE Best Designer Award is, congratulations to the mysterious designer from the East, Miss Zhong Zhonghwan, and her work, Butterfly Wings. A light descended from the sky and landed on Gu Shengyin. The audience applauded thunderously, congratulating the young designer. Gu Shengyin went up to the podium. Beside her stood a female supermodel wearing her design, butterfly wings. "I'm very happy to receive this award. Thank you." After a long string of thanks, Gu Shengyin's voice suddenly paused. She suddenly smiled. "Other than that, I want to thank someone. I'm grateful to him for watching every fashion show with me. I'm grateful to him for being by my side when I'm happy, sad, inspired, or upset." Many people who knew the story between her and Lin Zhe were already exclaiming softly. Lin Zhe held his breath at that moment. His heart was beating so fast that he couldn't hear the noise around him. In his world, there was only the woman standing on the podium smiling as she spoke. In his ears, there was only her sweet voice. All of this, in front of everyone, in front of the media, I want to say to him. She looked in the direction of Lin Zhe. "Linza, thank you. Also, I love you." The lights shone in Lin Zhe's direction, and his figure appeared on the big screen. Under the witness of all the guests, the handsome Oriental man had a smile on his face, and his eyes were as warm as spring water in March. "I love you too, Zhonghuan." Chapter 1144. No one knew that Lin Zhe was holding on and smiling like that in front of everyone. The moment the lights and cameras moved away from him, he couldn't hold it in. His eyes turned red and tears fell. He was really happy. Lin Zhe had never been as happy as he was at this moment. He thought that if he could get Zhang Huan's words, it would be worth it even if he immediately jumped down from the 24th floor of the award ceremony. In China, Mr. Zhong and Mrs. Lin, who were paying attention to their daughter and son's movements, also saw this scene on the live broadcast. Father Zhong was still fine. He heaved a sigh of relief. Mrs. Lin, on the other hand, cried on the spot. His son, Lin Zhe, had finally waited for this day. The others, however, saw the news in the headlines the next day. Oriental designer becomes the big winner of ADE, confession at the award ceremony. Career and love double harvest. ADE's best designer tells you what it means to be a winner in life. Headlines like this filled almost all the fashion magazine's headlines the next day. As soon as Gu Shengyin stepped down from the stage, Lin Zhe, who was full of excitement, hugged her in his arms. Until the end of the award ceremony, the two of them didn't let go of each other's hands. After the two of them returned to China, they moved quickly. Lin Zhe called back to prepare for the wedding almost as soon as he became a full-time employee. The day after the two of them returned to the hotel, he personally bought a ring and proposed to Gu Shengyin. "Why are you in such a hurry?" Gu Shengyin was surprised. Lin Zhe took her hand and placed it on his chest. "Because it's filled with agitation and uneasiness. Everything that's happened so far feels too unreal. I can only feel at ease if I lock you firmly by my side." He had never been stingy with telling the truth to Gu Shengyin. Needless to say, she knew what he was referring to. What else could Gu Shengyin say? She had even confessed. If she rejected the proposal, it would be pretentious. Everyone was stunned by the speed of the two men's movements. They had just officially announced that they were together for less than a month, and now they were announcing their marriage. Everyone was sighing. Lin Zhe was indeed fast. When someone mocked Lin Zhe because of this, he didn't feel embarrassed at all. Instead, he nodded seriously. "Yes, I'm not in a hurry. Zhonghuan is so good. If I don't label her as Madame Linza, I will never be at ease. What if someone covets her?" The person who asked the question, F*CKU, who told you to run your mouth, serves him right for eating a mouthful of dog food. The parents of the two families were very satisfied. After all, the two of them were not young anymore. It was just right for them to get married. As a result, Zhonghuan was finally crowned as Mrs. Lin by Linza at the age of 26. This year, all the employees of Lin Corporation received double their year-end bonuses. All the employees were secretly giving their blessings, hoping that the general manager's wife would get pregnant soon. If the young master was born and the general manager was happy, it was not impossible for the bonus to be doubled. He had thought that since the general manager of the Lin Corporation had pursued his wife so crazily before they got married, he would restrain himself a little after they got married. That was what most people thought. After all, he was a man. Everyone knew that. But those people were too naive. Because after the two of them got married, Lin Zhe became even more clingy to his wife. Moreover, Lin Zhe even found the most dignified reason for himself. I'm clingy to my own wife. Do you have a problem with that? If you have a problem with that, go find one yourself. Chapter 1145. Before the two of them had officially established their relationship, Lin Zhe had been known as a crazy pursuer. Everyone in the company knew that he could deal with the company's affairs at an unimaginable speed and then spare as much time as possible to fly around the world with Zhong Zhonghuan. After Zhong Zhonghuan became Mrs. Lin, this situation didn't change at all. Zhong Zhonghuan was still flying all over the world. Her profession meant that she couldn't stay quietly at home like an ordinary housewife and take care of her husband and children. As for Lin Zhe, as long as he had time, he would fly around the world with her. Compared to his persistent pursuit in the past, he was much more open and above-board now. In the past, he could only sit quietly at the fan seats like everyone else and watch the performances of the models like an ordinary fan. He was always so far away from the designer seat. But it was different now. As long as he had time to attend a fashion show, Lin Zhe could sit on his wife's body openly. No matter how many times the camera swept over the two of them, they could see the two of them smiling and whispering intimately together. Even their hands were tightly held together. Another 5 years passed. When Zhong Zhonghuan won the second ADE Design Award in her life, she announced a piece of news that made countless people happy. Their family would soon welcome a new member. At the same time, she also said that all work announcements would be suspended and she would focus on taking care of the baby. Among all the people who heard the news, Lin Zhe was the happiest. He felt that the ADE selection competition was the lucky star of his life. The first time he participated in this competition, he got the wife he loved the most in his life. The second time he participated in this competition, he was about to welcome the baby of his family. God was so kind to him. When Zhong Zhonghuan returned to China, she was treated like a princess from two families. Especially Lin Mu. Ever since a son took charge of the Lin Corporation, Lin Mu felt that she had no goals in life. So she began to focus on traveling, beauty, fitness and other activities that she had wanted to do before but didn't have time for. She didn't return home for almost a month, leaving enough space for her son and daughter-in-law. But when she heard that her daughter-in-law was pregnant, Lin Mu, who was skiing in the Northern Hemisphere, flew straight home. In fact, Gu Shengyin was not nervous about giving birth. After all, she had experienced it several times. Moreover, the system could block her pain, so she did not feel uncomfortable. However, they couldn't resist the anticipation and nervousness of the parents on both sides. In the end, Gu Shengyin herself became extremely cautious under the brainwashing. With everyone's blessings, Gu Shengyin safely gave birth to their first child, the little princess of the Lin family, Lini. Gu Shengyin and Lin Zhe, the couple who had just become parents, were fine. Lin Zhe's mother, who wanted a granddaughter, was so happy that she wanted to fly. What, you don't like your daughter? Gu Shengyin looked at Lin Zhe and raised her eyebrows. The other party didn't seem that happy. Lin Zhe shook his head and gently leaned his head against her side. How could I not like the child you gave birth to? I just think that giving birth to a child is too torturous. You've worked so hard. Gu Shengyin laughed. She turned her face and kissed the man on the face. For you, I am willing. Chapter 1146. Lin Zhe and Gu Shengyin had been married for many years, and he had chased after Gu Shengyin for many years. Until later, when both of them were old, Gu Shengyin finally stopped. She put down her work and wholeheartedly accompanied her family. Lin Zhe had long since handed over the family business to his children. The two old married couples often held hands and leisurely wandered around every beautiful place in this world. Their footsteps were very slow, but their steps were very steady. because they both knew that there would always be someone by their side holding their hand. The two of them, no one would leave the other behind. Another life of happiness and good health. Gu Shengyin returned to the space and did not stop at all. After receiving the gift of the world, she immediately began to teleport to another world. This time, she opened her eyes amidst a faint fragrance. System, begin to transfer memories. Gu Shengyin said and began to look at her surroundings. This was a very spacious hall. Although it was called a hall, there was nothing in the hall. Because there was nothing, the originally spacious hall seemed even more empty. The only decorations in the hall were the layers of red gauze curtains that seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Under the effect of the faint cold wind from who knows where, they fluttered. And in the center of those red gauze curtains was the big bed where Gu Shengyin was. Gu Shengyin sat up. At the same time, the system's plot had been transmitted. Ghost King Lon Ling. This was the identity of this body. Ghost King Lon Ling had been Ghost King Lon Ling since she had memories. She did not know what her identity was when she was alive, nor did she know why she had become a ghost. Because she was the most powerful ghost god in this area. This place was called Lon Ling in the distant past, so she was called Ghost King Lon Ling. Ghost King Lon Ling's name was Lon Ling. Ghost King Lon Ling did not like crowds and did not eat strangers. Compared to a ghost, she was more like a Taoist true god with no desires. The only thing Lon Ling Ghost King was interested in was her past life. As a ghost without memories, no matter how powerful she would not be satisfied. Whether it was a human or a ghost, the higher one stood at the top, the more they could not tolerate too many unknown things. This was the case for Ghost King Lon Ling. According to the original plot, Gu Shengyin saw Ghost King Lon Ling's future. Her existence restrained the ghosts and monsters in this place. Lon Ling Ghost King didn't like blood because she didn't think it was beautiful, so none of the ghosts in this place dared to kill people. There was once a self-proclaimed powerful ghost that tried to challenge the authority of Ghost King Lon Ling, but the result was death. Ghosts were originally spiritual bodies produced by souls that did not enter the cycle of reincarnation after death. Chapter 1147. Zhang Ling was a disciple of a Taoist sect in hell near Lon Ling. She was born with Heaven's Eye and was nurtured by the sect since she was young. She was taught how to kill demons and monsters. In fact, this was also the mission of countless Taoist sections. After all, there were very few friendly ghosts in Lon Ling. Most ghosts relied on absorbing the vitality of humans to maintain their bodies. There were even some evil ghosts that specialized in killing ordinary people. Generally speaking, in the eyes of humans, ghosts and monsters were synonymous with terror. Just like how humans hated ghosts, ghosts did not necessarily like humans that much. There were no Taoist sects in the vast Orchid Hill. The reason was simple, because the Lon Ling king did not like it. It was not that there were no sects that wanted to take over this place. In terms of feng shui, Lon Ling was a good place with rich spiritual energy. Whether it was cultivators, ghosts, or humans, it was suitable for them to live here. However, no matter which sect it was, they would definitely be obstructed if they wanted to settle down here. With the resistance of tens of thousands of ghosts in the entire Lon Ling area, even the strongest sect would not be able to take down this tough bone. Over time, the reputation of the Lon Ling Ghost King spread. Lon Ling, this hell, also became a place that Taoists would sigh about. Zhang Ling because of her good talent, she had a fearless personality since she was young. Because she had lived in a sect since she was young, she could only see these few mountains. She could only hear her fellow disciples praising her outstanding talent and could not help but feel a little smug. When she was 16 years old, she secretly ran to Lon Ling while the sect masters were not paying attention. She thought that if she could capture the Lon Ling Ghost King, who made her master and the others look serious, wouldn't it be a great achievement? She was quite lucky and actually found the palace where the Lon Ling Ghost King was. However, how could a little girl who was still wet behind the ears be a match for the famous Lon Ling Ghost King? The Lon Ling Ghost King did not like to kill, so she teased Zhang Ling and chased her out of Lon Ling. Zhang Ling was not convinced because of this. After returning to the sect, the elders in the sect heard that she was fearless enough to provoke the Ghost King Lan Ling. They punished her severely and grounded her for 3 whole years. Zhang Linger, on the other hand, was provoked by Lan Ling Ghost King's teasing. She was no longer as absent-minded as she used to be. Instead, she began to work hard on her cultivation. 3 years later, she boasted that there was still a big gap between her and the Lan Ling Ghost King. Following that, she went into seclusion for another 3 years. A total of 9 years. Once again, she went to challenge Ghost King Lan Ling with her sword. She didn't want to hurt Lan Ling Ghost King. After all, Zhang Ling was no longer the little kid she was back then. She knew how to differentiate between good and evil, and also understood her own recklessness back then. If it was someone with a bad temper, he would have died long ago. She just wanted to wash away the humiliation of being teased by Ghost King Lan Ling. But accidents were always beyond human control. Lan Ling Ghost King had just passed the most severe 6 in 9 heavenly tribulation that even ghosts and gods had to go through. Although she had successfully passed the tribulation, she was already at the end of her rope. Zhang Linger did not know that the attack that she thought the other party would definitely be able to dodge landed on Lan Ling Ghost King without hesitation. Under Zhang Linger's incredulous gaze, Lan Ling Ghost King turned into a little blue firefly in front of her. From then on, there was no more Lan Ling Ghost King in this world. Chapter 1148. Gu Shengyin sighed. Ghost King Lan Ling's death was really unjust. She was supposed to get an edict from the divine court soon after she passed the 6 in 9 heavenly tribulation, but fate played tricks on her. Strictly speaking, Ling Er's death was not her fault. She didn't know that Ghost King Lan Ling was seriously injured and lost her strength. Ghost King Lan Ling also didn't expect that the little girl who was like an ant back then would grow up so quickly. It could only be said that fate played tricks on people. The protagonist's fate couldn't be cut off like this, so Gu Shengyin came to Ghost King Lan Ling, who hadn't started yet. Gu Shengyin looked around. Very good, this dark, ethereal and gloomy style was really ghostly. She reached out and pulled open the curtain in front of her. It seemed that someone invisible had lit up the whole hall, and the dark hall was instantly lit up. But this light was only equivalent to the light in front of the hall. A dark blue light flashed between Gu Shengyin, and there was a ripple in the space like water, and a mirror appeared in front of her. When Gu Shengyin saw Ghost King Lan Ling's appearance, he couldn't help but gasp in admiration. The woman in the mirror had a very white complexion. But it was different from the whiteness of human beings, and it was also different from the bluish white of ordinary ghosts. Her complexion was pale, as if she had never seen the sun, so pale that it was almost transparent. Raising her palm, Gu Shengyin could clearly see the light blue blood vessels on her slender wrist. But her eyebrows and eyes were very dark. Her eyebrows were as black as ink, and her eyes were pitch black. The contrast between black and white actually produced a kind of extreme beauty. The shape of her lips was very beautiful, undyed and vermilion, which were the only 3 red parts of her body. Red lips, red nail polish, and red clothes. He had ink-colored hair, ink-colored eyebrows, and ink-colored eyes. White skin. When the 3 contrasting colors were on the same person, it produced a very shocking effect. At this moment, she was sitting on the bed lazily, with a messy silky red brocade quilt under her, and her long black hair casually draped behind her. His entire person was like a colorful splash ink painting. Beautiful. This was the only way Gu Shengyin could describe Ghost King Lan Ling. If she was in the human world, she would be an enchantress who could bring calamity to the world. However, in the world of Yin and Yang, she was the Ghost King Lan Ling, who was feared by countless ghosts. The Yin-Yang realm was a general term for the world where ghosts lived. With a flick of his finger, the mirror disappeared. Gu Shengyin got up and stepped on her embroidered shoes. The layers of red gauze curtains in front of her automatically parted, as if to guide her. System, draw skills. All right, host. The system flashed with a white light. Gu Shengyin glanced at it. Getting close to nature? Fortunately, it wasn't too bad. There was no need for a ghost to get close to nature. However, It was still much better than using light magic. Gu Shengyin suddenly thought of something. System, do you know who the Phantom Lord Lanling was? The plot only mentioned that she saw her past life through the three-world mirror after being conferred the title of Principal God, but it didn't specifically mention it. The system replied, Host, you have to work hard on this yourself. The system can't help or inquire about anything that isn't mentioned in the plot. Gu Shengyin sneered, All right, I understand. A soft voice came from outside the hall. Lord Lanling, do you need me to serve you? 8 o'clock. I'm so happy today. It's the first time since Kaiwan that my weekly recommendation votes have exceeded 10,000. I really, really love you all. Thank you all for your support. By the way, please don't stop throwing votes. Gao Lengji isn't afraid of pain. Chapter 1149. Gu Shengyin said slowly, Come in. Two female ghosts in white walked in. They were female ghosts because they appeared here, so they could only be female ghosts. As the two figures approached, Gu Shengyin saw their faces. She could not help but exclaim in her heart, Even ghosts are so beautiful now? The woman in white on the left had her hair tied up loosely with a silver ribbon. She had a faint smile on her face and was extremely beautiful. The one on the right wore a pink dress and looked younger. Her face was bright and beautiful. She was naturally charming. The two female ghosts were the personal servants of Ghost King Lanling. The beautiful one was called Wei Wei and the bright one was called Ajin. Both of them were holding spices and warm water in their hands. They must have been waiting outside for a long time. Gu Shengyin sat down lazily and allowed Wei Wei to wipe his face with a soft towel that was soaked in water. Ajin used a sandalwood comb to gently comb her long, black hair. Gu Shengyin squinted her eyes and sighed, These days are indeed comfortable. Lord Lanling, I heard that a group of wild Taoists came to our Lanling's territory recently. Many lonely souls and ghosts have already come to complain to us. After cleaning Gu Shengyin's face, Wei Wei took a step back and said respectfully to Gu Shengyin. Gu Shengyin supported her head with one hand and replied faintly, Wei Wei lowered her head and said, I'm willing to share your burden and chase those daring Taoists out of Lanling. No need. Gu Shengyin said softly. Lord Lanling? Wei Wei raised her head and was surprised. Lord, are you not going to care about this matter? I'll go and meet these people personally. Gu Shengyin had nothing to do. She knew that Ghost King Lanling was quite powerful in this world, but she had not experienced it personally. She might as well try it out on those wild Taoists. Those Taoist priests probably weren't disciples of any righteous sections. Those with a bit of background would not be able to bypass him, the ruler in the dark. Hearing Gu Shengyin's words, he was slightly delighted. However, she immediately hesitated and said, It's just a few weak Taoists. There's no need to trouble Sir to deal with them personally. Gu Shengyin lowered her eyes and looked at her faintly. She lowered her head slightly and said, I have overstepped my bounds. What qualifications did she have to speculate about His Excellency's thoughts? In a wilderness in the Lanling region, 3 figures dressed in green robes were walking slowly with swords in their hands. Brother One, it is said that the evil spirits in the Orchid Land are ferocious. Many of our fellow Taoists do not dare to come here. In my opinion, it's just so, a tall and thin Taoist priest said with a self-satisfied smile. The one called Brother One was slightly plump and had a mustache. There was a cunning look in his eyes. Hearing the tall and thin Taoist's words, he couldn't help but stroke his mustache and said with a smile, That's why those righteous sects are just fishing for fame. They have so many disciples, but they don't even dare to enter the Lanling. Is that so? A faint female voice entered the ears of the 3 people. Unknowingly, a cold wind suddenly blew in this wilderness and a thick fog appeared from the ground. In just a moment, the surroundings were covered in a gray fog. The 3 people were close together and could barely see each other's figures. The sky darkened visibly. Just a moment ago, the sun was shining brightly in the sky. Now, there were gusts of cold wind, causing them to shiver uncontrollably. Chapter 1150. This is. The expression of the tall and skinny man, who had a smug look on his face earlier, changed instantly. If they still could not tell that this was done on purpose, the three of them would have wasted their years of cultivation. The man who had been silent all this while had a pale complexion and a green headscarf on his head. He took out a copper bagua mirror with a flip of his hand. He tossed the bagua mirror above his head. The bagua mirror immediately flashed with a golden light, illuminating the situation within a 2-meter radius. Clearly, this was a good magic tool. Seeing the situation around him, the slightly plump Taoist felt much more at ease. He also regained his previous eloquence. Brother Zhang's 8 trigrams mirror is indeed a top-notch magic tool. With Brother Zhang here, why should we be afraid of those ghosts? Before he could finish, the surrounding Yin wind suddenly blew even more violently. There were even traces of crying and wailing in the wind. Under such circumstances, it was even more horrifying. The 8 trigrams treasure mirror in the air seemed to be unable to withstand the unknown power and began to sway. Not good. The middle-aged scholar's complexion changed, and he quickly took out several talismans from his bosom, bit his middle finger, and muttered an incantation. Bursts of golden light rushed towards the 8 trigrams mirror as he chanted, trying to stabilize it. However, it was useless. In the growing Yin wind, the bagua mirror was like a small boat in the middle of the ocean. It was in danger of capsizing at any time. The middle-aged man's already pale face became even paler. There was no trace of blood. "The two of you, lend me a hand," he shouted in a low voice. The two beside him seemed to have felt the power of their opponent. When the three of them came to Orchid Mountain, they had heard from some of their fellow Taoists that this area had an owner. The ghosts here were not evil. They were warned to be careful and avoid this place. However, the three of them were confident in their abilities. They had subdued a few ghosts with average strength in the few days they had been in Orchid Mountain. They became arrogant and thought that those people were just exaggerating. However, after encountering the situation in front of them, the three of them realized that they were just being arrogant. There seemed to be a woman's eerie voice coming from the chilly wind. "The three of you, why did you come to my cave? Did you see me living alone for so many years and feel lonely?" At the same time, the 8 trigrams mirror in the air seemed to be unable to bear the burden. After shaking a few times, it finally let out a clear shattering sound and fell to the ground. The magic tool was connected to its owner's mind. The middle-aged scholar spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. Without the 8 trigrams mirror, the surroundings returned to darkness. Only now did the three of them truly realize the lingering fear. They had already lost a powerful magic tool and injured a person, but they didn't even know what the other party was. The tall and thin Taoist priest suddenly became agitated. He pulled out his sword and suddenly slashed towards the thick fog. He cursed. "Where did this monster come from? Pretending to be mysterious. If you have the ability, let's do it face to face." Pa! Suddenly, a branch of a tree leaf appeared out of nowhere and slapped him hard on the face. In an instant, half of the Taoist priest's face swelled up. He swung his sword in that direction and found that it was just an ordinary tree branch. The tall and thin Taoist priest didn't dare to speak anymore. Chapter 1151. Not far from the three of them, a woman in red was sitting quietly on a high branch of a big tree that was very luxuriant. She was looking at them with interest. Her red dress was bright red and there were no other colors on it. Her long, ink-like hair casually fell down. A silver mask gently covered her face. Only her red lips could be seen curling up as if she was in a good mood. What was strange was that not far away, where the three of them were, the sky was dark and gloomy and the wind was howling. However, where the woman was, the sun was shining brightly. Sporadic sunlight shone on her face through the dense branches and leaves, but there was no shadow on the ground. Interesting. Gu Xingyin's red lips parted slightly as she said these two words. The strength of Ghost King Lon Ling was beyond her imagination. She was not afraid of sunlight and could affect the climate. This was no longer the strength of a ghost. It was close to the strength of a ghost god. It was no wonder that the divine court would send an edict. Her strength was not inferior to the righteous gods of the divine court. The feeling of the warm sunlight shining on her body was not bad. Of course, it was not very good either. After all, as a ghost, she preferred a cold and gloomy environment. Although the sunlight did not pose any danger to her, it made her instinctively dislike it. Gu Shengyin was in a good mood as she watched the 3 Taoist priests explore the enchantment that she had casually set up like a maze. "At this time, there should be a pot of wine," she said casually. The next moment, a pot of wine appeared in front of her. Gu Shengyin paused. She did not take the pot of wine. Instead, she looked at the hand holding the pot. It was a hand with an almost perfect shape. The joints were slender and the skin was fair. However, it was not as delicate as a woman's. It was a man's hand. It could silently come to Gu Shengyin's side without her noticing. Perhaps it should be said that it was a very powerful man's hand. The next moment, a scorching breath fell on her ear. "What's wrong? The great ghost King Lan Ling doesn't even dare to accept a jug of wine?" The sound was very pleasant to the ears. If Gu Shengyin had to describe it, it would probably be the sound of icy spring water splashing and jade colliding. According to the legends, when the phoenix spread its wings and let out a cry, it had the ability to make all living things come back to life. Tens of thousands of flowers bloomed together, just like heavenly music. Although the sound before his eyes wasn't as earth-shattering, it wasn't far off in terms of how pleasant it was. Gu Shengyin's expression did not change. She turned her head and looked up along the hand. The same red robe, the same long black hair. Looking up, it was a handsome face that could make all living things go crazy. As a man, the appearance of the man in front of her was enough to make all the women in the world feel ashamed. Of course, this did not include Gu Shengyin. She was a ghost. Seeing Gu Shengyin's cold eyes looking at him, the red-robed man smiled. Between his eyebrows, there was a soul-stirring beauty. "Your Highness of the Phoenix clan has lowered yourself to come here. This tree is indeed blessed," Gu Shengyin said lightly. She wasn't wrong. The tree she was standing on was originally just an ordinary tree. But first, she, the ghost King Lan Ling, who was about to ascend to the position of a god, came here. Then, the symbol of the divine clan, the auspicious phoenix, stopped by. This was considered a great fortune. Not long after, this tree would become sentient and become a spiritual object. When the man heard her words, he seemed a little surprised. He did not expect that the first thing the ghost King Lan Ling said when she saw him was about this unremarkable tree. Chapter 1152. She was truly an extraordinary woman. The man gently lifted the lid of the wine pot, and a rich wine aroma wafted out. Gu Shengyin's eyes lit up. The snow in a cup from the 9th heaven? Lan Ling Ghost King was addicted to wine, and she knew almost all of the famous wines in the world. The man chuckled. "That's right." Gu Shengyin stretched out her hand, ready to take the pot of wine. Snow in a cup was a rare item, and it was not often seen. Unfortunately, before her hand could touch the pot of wine, the man's palm shook, and the pot of wine disappeared without a trace. Gu Shengyin's face turned cold. "You tricked me." A chilly aura was emitted from her body, and the surrounding ground was even covered with a layer of frost. Lan Ling Ghost King's dignity could not be offended, even if the other party was a phoenix born from the divine clan. The most miserable ones were the 3 Taoist priests in the array. They had been trapped in the black fog, and were often attacked by unknown creatures, so their minds and bodies were already exhausted to the extreme. Now that the temperature suddenly dropped, the 3 of them could not help but shiver. At this moment, the 3 of them were not as high-spirited as they were when they first arrived. It was too late for regrets in their hearts. If they had known, they would have listened to the words of their fellow Taoists. Lan Ling was not a place they could come to. Now, the only thing the 3 of them hoped for was that the ghosts in Lan Ling were really as rumored, and did not harm people's lives, but only wanted to punish them. Looking at Gu Xingyin's cold eyes, the man still smiled naturally. No, 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 I originally wanted to give this pot of wine to Lan Ling, but now I suddenly changed my mind. As he spoke, his body suddenly moved closer to Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin's heart trembled, and wanted to retreat, but she realized that the man had unknowingly set up a barrier around her. She could not break free for a moment. The man's fingers were already caressing her cheeks. The broken silver mask was like snowflakes, falling from Gu Xingyin's face, and her complete face was revealed to the man. Gu Xingyin clearly saw a trace of surprise in his eyes. The man looked at her with blurred eyes. It's really gorgeous. In the next moment, his expression changed drastically, and he retreated in a flash. But he was still a step too late. When he raised his head again, there was a deep wound on his handsome face, so deep that his bones could be seen. Golden blood dripped from the wound and turned into a cluster of golden sparks as soon as it left his body, turning into ashes as it fell to the ground. He reached out and wiped his face, and the wound instantly healed. What a ruthless ghost, King Lan Ling! The man looked at Gu Xingyin with a smile. Gu Xingyin lowered her eyes and looked at her bright red nails. What I want to cut is your throat. The man chuckled mysteriously. His expression suddenly changed as he tilted his head to listen for something. Suddenly, he raised his hand and tossed something to Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin took a closer look, and saw that it was the wine in the pot of wine. I originally wanted to get drunk with Lan Ling, but unfortunately, I have something to do. I will come again. His figure suddenly became illusory, and he turned into a red stream of light and disappeared. A red feather with a transparent flame fell from the sky and landed on Gu Xingyin's shoulder. Gu Xingyin reached out and took the feather. The flame on it was not hot, and was even very gentle. At the base of the feather, there was a small golden word, Ling. Chapter 1153. It seemed that this was the name of the flamboyant phoenix. Gu Xingyin raised her hand to destroy the feather, but after thinking that the feather of a phoenix was a rare treasure, she kept it in her sleeve. However, she did not know that she had dug a hole for herself. When she realized it in the future, it would be too late. At this moment, the system's voice sounded, filled with confusion. Host, I don't understand. Gu Xingyin raised her eyebrows. The system said honestly, why did the host try to kill that phoenix? Gu Xingyin paused. You know who he is? The system replied, yes, host. Strictly speaking, the system and the host's souls are linked, so it can sense some things. For example, that phoenix is the host's lover. Gu Xingyin looked at the system curiously. The soul contract sounded a little novel to him. She knew what it meant. Linking souls meant that if an accident happened to one party, the other party would sense it and bear the damage together. She had signed a contract with the system since she was born, but this was the first time she knew that the two of them were linked souls. However, does the system have a soul too? The system. It seemed that it had accidentally exposed something terrible. It said calmly, the host's authority is insufficient, the system cannot tell you. Gu Xingyin, this system would use this trick every time it did not want to answer. After encountering this phoenix, Gu Xingyin did not have the mood to torment the three Taoist priests. She waved her hand, and the three Taoist priests felt a gust of demonic wind. When they came back to their senses, they realized that they had arrived at the peak of an extremely tall mountain. They could not even see the way down the mountain. Could it be that the person behind this wanted to kill the three of them in this deserted place? The three of them were shocked by their own imagination. Suddenly, a ghostly female voice came from mid-air. It wanted the three of them to not eat or drink, and recite sutras to expiate the souls of all the ghosts in the Lanling area for a whole year to atone for their sins. If they were unwilling, they could choose to jump down from here. Gu Xingyin mercifully gave the three of them two options. In the end, the three Taoist priests chose to release the souls of the dead with bitter expressions on their faces. Gu Xingyin turned into a gust of cold wind and returned to her palace. Next, he just had to wait for the supporting female lead to sneak out from the mountain gate to find him. Gu Shengyin was quite interested in the naive Jiang Ling. Lord Lon Ling, a voice called out from outside the hall. It was Jin's voice. Jin entered the main hall respectfully and knelt down the moment he saw Gu Shengyin. Lord Lon Ling, I beg you to save Wei Wei. What happened? Gu Shengyin frowned. Jin's face paled. She clenched her teeth and told him everything. It turned out that Gu Shengyin had said a few days ago that she was going to deal with the 3 Taoist priests personally. She had asked Wei Wei and Jin, who had always been serving her, to go out and play by themselves. Jin had a lively personality. She dragged Wei Wei to make a white porcelain doll for each of them and went out to play in the human world. Little did she know that this trip would cause Wei Wei to fall into danger. It turned out that it was August's Lantern Festival in the human world. Wei Wei was considered a stunning beauty in the human world. During the Lantern Festival, she fell in love with a scholar in the human world. Since ancient times, love between a human and a ghost rarely had a good ending. Moreover, most of the unfaithful were scholars. Wei Wei fell in love with him and could not get out. Chapter 1154. Wei Wei had been careful not to let the scholar know that she was not human. But there were masters in the human world. When the scholar went out to buy something, he was stopped by a wandering Taoist, who told him that his face was dark and that he might be haunted by ghosts. The scholar did not believe these things, but the Taoist's words made sense and he was swayed. He tried the method that the Taoist taught him and it was incredible. The scholar almost fainted on the spot. However, he managed to hold himself back. Without even asking, he rushed out of the door and found the Taoist, asking him to help him deal with the female ghost in the house. He did not mention anything about the love between him and Wei Wei these days. He only said that the female ghost must be here to take his life. When the Taoist heard that it was a ghost that wanted to kill people, he would not let her go. He immediately followed the scholar home. Poor Wei Wei, who had prepared a table of food and was waiting for her lover to come home, did not expect that she would be greeted with a bastard. The Taoist was also capable. Wei Wei had been with Ghost King Lon Ling for many years. Although her skills were not superb, she was much more powerful than the average ghost. But she was still no match for the Taoist. Of course, Wei Wei was not happy to be betrayed by the lover she cared about. She looked at the scholar with all her might. Why? I've been treating you well with all my heart. Was the sincerity we've been showing during this time all fake? She had shown her ghost true form. She was dressed in white and her face was pale. She still looked the same as usual. But the scholar only felt that she was eerie and did not dare to look at her. The scholar hid behind the Taoist, as if the Taoist's existence gave him strength. He said to Wei Wei, since ancient times, ghosts have always been different. Moreover, who knows why you got close to me? Who knows if your so-called sincerity all these days was just a show to numb me? Although Wei Wei was a ghost, she died at a young age. After becoming a female ghost, she had been serving Ghost King Lon Ling in the Yin-Yang world. How could she have seen the evil in people's hearts? She actually didn't know how to refute such ugly and shameless words. He could only glare angrily at the scholar with his eyes wide open. She looked really scary. When the Taoist saw her, he thought that Wei Wei was really an evil ghost that wanted to kill people. Wei Wei was not a match for the Taoist. She desperately sent a message for help to Jin, who was like a sister to her, before she was taken into the Taoist's instrument. Jin thought that she was not a match for the Taoist, which was why she dared to ask Gu Shengyin for help. Although the two sisters had persuaded Lon Ling for many years, to be honest, they were not close to Ghost King Lon Ling. This was because Lon Ling had a cold personality to begin with, and because she was powerful, normal ghosts could not even withstand the pressure from her body, let alone get close to her. The ghosts of Lon Ling had always been respectful and avoided being close to her. Naturally, Gu Shengyin couldn't just stand by and do nothing. As she instructed Jin to lead the way, she instructed the system to check on Wei Wei's whereabouts. Fortunately, the system's result. The Taoist was not a bloodthirsty person. Although Wei Wei showed signs of turning into a demon, she did not have any negative karma. In other words, this female ghost had not killed anyone. He rejected the scholar's suggestion of burning the female ghost. Instead, he locked her in the Taoist's instrument and chanted the mind-cleansing mantra every day, hoping that she would repent in time. 6 chapters in the morning. Gao Lengji could not take it anymore and wanted to sleep. Sleepy, there are 2 chapters left. I'll make up for it tomorrow. Also, I want to ask for monthly votes. I made a wish last week that exceeded 10,000 votes. It has already been fulfilled. In the last week of the month, I still need more than 300 votes to enter the top 5 in the monthly votes category. If you have votes, don't keep them. Vote for Gigi. She is so hungry. Chapter 1155. Even Gu Shengyin was speechless when she saw the Taoist priest's actions. This Taoist priest had a point, right? He sealed Wei Wei without knowing the situation, so he could not tell right from wrong. However, after he captured Wei Wei, he did not kill her. He did not even take any drastic measures because she did not have any blood energy. He even chanted the clear mind spell to get rid of her inner demons. Gu Shengyin was curious. What kind of Taoist priest could do this? The 2 ghosts moved quickly. Even from afar, Gu Shengyin could sense a righteous Taoist aura. The aura was long and condensed. It was obvious that the other party's cultivation had reached a certain level. It was no wonder that Wei Wei was no match for him. Gu Shengyin raised her hand and a boundary covered the entire courtyard. Who is this Taoist priest? How dare you behave so atrociously in the hell of Lonling? The Taoist priest who had been sitting in the scholar's room opened his eyes in surprise. He did not sense anyone's arrival. It was obvious that this person was more powerful than him. At least, this person's concealment ability was better than his. Gu Shengyin's telegnosis ability passed through the window and landed on the Taoist priest. He was surprisingly young. This Taoist priest looked to be in his 20s. He was wearing a simple green Taoist robe. His hair was fixed with a bamboo hairpin. His face was gentle and delicate. He looked amiable. The Taoist priest pushed open the door and saw Gu Shengyin and Jean standing in the courtyard. He sized up Gu Shengyin and bowed. Are you the ghost king Lonling? Gu Shengyin snorted. Taoist priest, you know me too? The Taoist priest smiled. Who doesn't know the name of the ghost king Lonling? Gu Shengyin sneered. All right, don't flatter me. I'm just here to see what kind of Taoist priest dares to touch my people. The Taoist priest knew something was wrong when he heard Gu Shengyin's tone. He cupped his fists at Gu Shengyin and said, Your subordinate's girl is too vicious. I have no other choice. Too vicious? Gu Shengyin repeated these words and suddenly stretched out her hand. A small gourd from the Taoist priest's waist appeared in Gu Shengyin's hand. The Taoist priest's expression changed. This was his magic tool, but it was powerless against the Ghost King. The strength of this Ghost King was probably even greater than what most people thought. Gu Shengyin's hands shook slightly, and a wisp of green smoke spread out from the gourd, gradually turning into the figure of a woman. It was Wei Wei. At this moment, Wei Wei's eyes were still a little wild. Seeing that she was free, she wanted to pounce out. Wei Wei. The deep and cold voice was like a heavy hammer that slammed into Wei Wei's ears, waking her up from her muddled thoughts. Wei Wei looked at Gu Shengyin next to her, and her face turned pale. She walked in front of her and knelt down. Greetings, Lord. Gu Shengyin looked at her calmly, but she did not ask her to get up. Instead, she turned to the Taoist priest. Does my servant have any sins? The Taoist priest lowered his eyes. No. Does my servant have any evil intentions towards you? The Taoist priest shook his head. No. Did my servant cause any harm to that scholar? The Taoist priest understood what she meant. He shook his head with a bitter smile. No. Before Gu Shengyin could ask the fourth question, the Taoist priest had already bowed to Gu Shengyin. I did not think it through. Please forgive me, Ghost King Lonling. Chapter 1156. After he finished speaking, he bowed to Wei Wei, who was still kneeling on the ground. I did not carefully verify the truth of the matter and acted rashly. Please forgive me. Wei Wei continued to kneel on the ground and ignored him. Gu Xingyin glanced at Wei Wei and said in a low voice, "Get up." Wei Wei then obeyed and got up. Her face was pale and it was obvious that her spiritual body had been injured. Gu Xingyin scanned with her spiritual sense and made a grabbing motion in a certain direction. A strong gust of wind brought the guilty scholar who was peeping from another room to the courtyard. Ouch! Gu Xingyin was not in the mood to be gentle with the scholar. He directly threw him to the ground, causing the scholar to fall hard on the ground. The scholar cried out on the ground and saw that no one was paying attention to him. He raised his head carefully in Gu Xingyin's direction. He saw Gu Xingyin's cold silver mask and eyes. Ghost! He got up from the ground and ran behind the Taoist priest. Taoist priest, this ghost must have been summoned by the evil ghost from before. You have to help me. He did not dare to raise his head and only tugged at the Taoist priest's robe. Wei Wei lowered her head and did not look at the man who had been so affectionate with her the day before. Gu Xingyin did not allow her to do so. Wei Wei, raise your head. Wei Wei's body shook when she heard this. She raised her head and looked at Gu Xingyin in confusion. Gu Xingyin's face was expressionless. Don't look at me. Look at that man. She looked calmly at the trembling man who was hiding behind the Taoist priest in green. Her eyes were full of disdain. Take a good look. Is this the man you fell in love with? He is wretched, irresponsible and has a heart of stone. Each sentence was heavier than the last. It was like thunder in Wei Wei's ears and destroyed the last bit of hesitation and hope in her heart. Yes, what was she looking forward to in her heart? Could it be that by not looking and not thinking, she could pretend that everything that had happened did not exist? This man was really a scumbag. Wei Wei's expression hardened as she stared coldly at him. The man turned his head and met Wei Wei's gaze. His eyes flickered and he turned his head away, not daring to face Wei Wei. The last glimmer of hope in Wei Wei's heart was extinguished. Su Lian, I will only ask you one question. Answer me honestly. Wei Wei looked at the scholar without blinking. The scholar hid behind the Taoist priest and replied in a low, muffled voice, "Ask away." She looked at his face and saw that he did not even dare to look at her. She smiled sadly and said, "During this period of time, are your feelings for me sincere?" Gu Xingyin lowered his eyes. Only a girl like Wei Wei, who had never experienced love before, would ask such a question at a time like this. Su Lian was obviously an extremely selfish person who cherished his own life. The most important thing for such a person would always be himself. Sure enough, the man did not speak for a long time. In the end, he only said, "Wei Wei, why did you lie to me?" Lie to him? Wei Wei smiled bitterly. It turned out that her feelings for him during this period of time were just a scam in his eyes. She heard something break in her heart. She turned her head, not wanting to look at the man anymore. Gu Xingyin said coldly, "You bullied my people. I will not let it go so easily." She looked at Wei Wei. "You make your own decision. These two people," she pointed at the scholar and the Taoist priest in green. "How should we deal with them?" Obviously, she was not going to let them go. Wei Wei was stunned. She had not thought about this. The 8th update of the day. See you in the morning. Mua. Chapter 1157. She hesitated for a moment and looked at Gu Xingyin pleadingly. Seeing her like this, Gu Xingyin sighed in her heart. What should she do with such a soft personality? Never mind, Lan Ling Ghost Lord would never allow herself to be taken advantage of and Wei Wei would not. Let her be the bad guy. She pointed her finger and the scholar hiding behind the Taoist priest in green was brought in front of Gu Xingyin by invisible shackles. The scholar trembled all over and did not dare to look up at Gu Xingyin. He did not know why, but the female ghost in red did not look scary, but he did not dare to look at her face. He felt that she had an aura that he could not resist. Save me, Taoist priest. He could only plead to the Taoist priest in green behind him. The Taoist priest in green did not have the heart to look at him, but when Gu Shengyin looked at him, he realized that he could not move his body at all. Gu Shengyin looked at him with a half-smile and said, "You can't even protect yourself. Don't get involved in other people's business, little Taoist priest." She slowly said, "Wait until I've dealt with this useless human, then I'll deal with you." The Taoist priest in green smiled bitterly. It seemed that things would not end well today. The scholar's face turned pale. Even the powerful Taoist priest could not do anything to this female ghost in red. Was he going to die today? His thoughts turned and he finally thought of Wei Wei, who was standing silently beside Gu Shengyin. He raised his head and looked at Wei Wei affectionately. "Wei Wei, Wei Wei. I didn't do it on purpose. I really like you. It's just that I was blinded when I heard that you weren't human. Can you give me a chance?" Gu Shengyin did not move and allowed this human to confess to Wei Wei affectionately. From her point of view as a bystander, this human's acting was very bad. He was just using Wei Wei as his last hope. However, a bystander would see things clearly. Usually, the person in charge would not be able to tell. Gu Shengyin wanted to see Wei Wei's reaction. As expected, Wei Wei's expression changed several times when she heard his words. She turned to look at Gu Shengyin. "Lord Lan Ling." Gu Shengyin's expression was calm as she lightly said, "I'll leave the choice in your hands. If you want to release him, I won't make things difficult for him." When the scholar Su Lian heard this, his heart was filled with hope. He looked at Wei Wei with even more sincerity. "Wei Wei, I know that I was wrong. When this matter is over, let's start anew and get back together, okay?" She lowered her eyes and looked at the man on the ground. It was this man, with such a deep gaze, that made her fall in love with him without any resistance. But it was also this man who looked at her coldly with a pair of eyes that were like the sea and called her a ghost that harmed people. She suddenly chuckled. Wei Wei was very pretty to begin with. When she smiled, it was as if the cold moon had broken through the dark clouds and shone on the earth. Not to mention the scholar, even the Taoist priest in green who was not far away was stunned for a moment. When the scholar saw her smile, he was delighted. He thought that she still had feelings for him. However, the next moment, he heard the woman in front of him say, "Start anew? Get back together? No, Su Lian, this kind of thing disgusts me." Chapter 1158. Not only was the scholar stunned, even Gu Shengyin looked at Wei Wei in surprise. She did not expect that Wei Wei, who had always been elegant and indifferent, would say such words. After Wei Wei finished speaking, she did not want to look at the scholar anymore. She turned to look at Gu Shengyin. She said, "Lord Lan Ling, Wei Wei has a request." Gu Shengyin was very satisfied with her reaction just now. Her tone could not help but become much gentler. "Go ahead." Wei Wei lowered her head. "I don't want to see that human again." Gu Shengyin chuckled. "Okay, I know what you mean." When the Taoist priest in green heard this, his expression changed. When he heard Wei Wei say that she did not want to see that scholar, he subconsciously thought that she was going to kill him. He wanted to stop her. This was not because of compassion, but because the ghost he saw today, whether it was Ghost Lord Lan Ling or the two female ghosts under her command, were all ghosts with temperament. They were not evil people. There was no need for them to bear the sin of killing because of Su Lian. Ghosts were different from humans. They also needed to cultivate and go through the thunder tribulation. If ghosts were stained with human lives and sins, there were very few who could survive the thunder tribulation. But before he could say anything, Gu Shengyin had already made her move. She drew a line in the air with her hands. A blood-red mysterious rune flew toward Su Lian. It quickly disappeared into his body and disappeared without a trace. Su Lian looked at Gu Shengyin in horror. He did not know what she had done to him. Gu Shengyin seemed to be in a good mood after doing this. The corners of her red lips could not help but curl up. Her ink-black eyes met with Su Lian's frightened eyes, and she actually laughed softly. I am in a good mood today. I will tell you what I did just now. I placed a curse on your body. Don't worry, it won't be a threat to your life. I just need you to do some small things. You have to remember what I'm going to say next. Every day you have to donate all of your wealth to the poor people around you. You only need to keep enough money for 2 meals of plain steamed buns. You are not allowed to drink alcohol, gamble, flirt, or fight with dogs. You have to study hard every day. You are not allowed to teach students without remuneration. You are not allowed to enter the bureaucracy. You are not allowed to live in a luxurious mansion. You are not allowed to be rich. Gu Shengyin enunciated each and every word, ignoring the scholar's widening eyes, and said the last thing she wanted to say. After 3 days, you are not allowed to enter the Lanling district. If you can't do what I've said, you can experience the consequences yourself. Her sinister voice made the scholar shudder. He didn't want to know the consequences of her words. However, if what she said was true, then he might as well die for all he cared. The scholar stood up shakily and wanted to say something. Gu Shengyin looked at him with disdain. All right, I've said what I wanted to say. You can scram now. You don't have to be an eyesore here. She waved her long sleeves and the scholar disappeared without a trace. Once again, Gu Shengyin met the Taoist priest's complicated eyes. She smiled and said, Don't worry, I've cast a protective spell on his body. It will ensure that he will live a long life without any illness or pain. The Taoist priest in green, given the scholar's situation, it would be better for him to die. However, this female ghost did not even give him the chance to die. He secretly made a decision. No matter who he provoked in the future, he would never provoke the Lanling Ghost King. Chapter 1159. Now, it's your turn. Gu Shengyin looked at the scholar lazily, as if she was thinking about what to do. The Taoist priest in green stood there calmly. He could neither fight nor run, so he could only stand there and wait for the trial. Gu Shengyin turned to look at Wei Wei, who had been silent the whole time. Tell me, how should we deal with this stupid Taoist priest who hurt you? Wei Wei looked up at the Taoist priest in green, lowered her head and said softly, Lord Lanling, this Taoist priest did not hurt me. He was just deceived by a scoundrel. She meant that she was letting him go. Gu Shengyin glanced at the Taoist priest in green, and suddenly said, Since Wei Wei is pleading for mercy, I will not say anything. Wei Wei was imprisoned in the magic weapon by you, and her origin was hurt. Little Taoist priest, I heard that you Taoists have a way to calm the mind, so I will leave Wei Wei to you. You must help her recover her lost strength. After she finished speaking, she turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the sky. Only a faint voice was left in their ears. I will come and see the results after a while. Wei Wei and the Taoist priest in green stood awkwardly in the courtyard. Wei Wei was a little embarrassed. Lord Lanling was just saying. She would not have the time to investigate. I will find a place to rest for a while. No. The Taoist priest in green smiled gently and looked at Wei Wei's beautiful face. Lord Lanling is right. I hurt you by accident, so I should be responsible for your recovery. Gu Shengyin brought Ah Jin back to the Yin-Yang world. After Ah Jin left, Gu Shengyin went into seclusion. She had to improve her strength quickly. Otherwise, in the original plot, the 69 heavenly tribulations would take away half of her life. When Gu Shengyin woke up from seclusion again, she did not wake up naturally. Someone had violated the restriction she had set outside the hall. Gu Shengyin opened her eyes, and the system in her mind told her that Zhongling was here. Her spiritual sense instantly spread out and landed on the little girl holding the sword outside. Zhongling was 16 years old. Her face was pure and beautiful, and her light blue dress made her look like a lotus flower that had just emerged from the water. A girl of this age, even if she didn't put on any makeup, would still have the aura and beauty of a rising sun. As expected of the name Ling, sensing it with rapt attention, Zhongling current strength was roughly at a Jin's level. Gu Shangyin could only say that she was able to break through the layers of obstacles in the Yinyang world and come to his palace without anyone noticing. Coincidence was indeed powerful. He. At this moment, Zhang Ling was cautiously walking outside the hall. This time, she secretly took the concealment magic tool from her sect and came alone to find the legendary ghost king Lan Ling. The fearless little girl actually showed a rare trace of hesitation when she saw the majestic hall in front of her. Zhang Ling, don't be afraid. You are the heroine who wants to capture Lan Ling Ghost King alive. She comforted herself and walked step by step to the door of the hall. Just as Zhang Ling was about to push open the door, the tightly shut door suddenly rumbled and slowly opened inwards. Zhang Ling jumped in fright. She placed a sword in front of her chest and said loudly, "Ghost King Lan Ling, are you here?" A red figure slowly appeared in her field of vision. Chapter 1160. Zhang Ling couldn't help but open her eyes wide, as if she was stunned by the person who slowly appeared from the darkness. Even the sword in her hand was unconsciously put down. What a beautiful person! She sighed in her heart and immediately woke up. No, this was the Yinyang world, the lair of Ghost King Lan Ling. How could there be someone here? The person in front of her was definitely a female ghost. But Zhang Ling couldn't help but secretly look at Gu Shangyin. This female ghost was really beautiful. Gu Shangyin looked at Zhang Ling. The other party's eyes were very clear, and the gaze she looked at her with undisguised shock and admiration. No one would feel disgusted by this gaze, including Gu Shangyin. She smiled and said, "Where did this human girl come from? This is not a place you should come to." Zhang Ling tried to straighten her expression and make her expression become serious. "I'm here to find someone. No, I'm here to find a ghost," she said with a straight face. Gu Shangyin held back her laughter. Why didn't the original plot mention that Zhang Ling was such a cute girl? She followed Zhang Ling's words and asked, "Who are you looking for?" Zhang Ling looked at her with some vigilance. "Why are you asking so much?" Gu Shangyin said with a smile, "I've lived here for many, many years. The ghost you're looking for, I definitely know." Zhang Ling still didn't say anything. She was a person with principles. How could she tell this female ghost her purpose just because she was beautiful? Gu Shangyin saw her like this and really wanted to pinch her little face. She said, "Actually, even if you don't say it, I know who you're looking for." Zhang Ling didn't fall for it. "Then tell me, who am I looking for?" Gu Shangyin replied quickly, "You're looking for the famous Ghost King Lan Ling, right?" Zhang Ling's eyes widened. "How do you know?" Gu Shangyin finally couldn't help but laugh. "There's nothing in this world that I don't know." Zhang Ling felt that the person in front of her was very mysterious. She couldn't help but ask, "Since you know who I'm looking for, can you take me to him?" Gu Shangyin purposely said, "Why would I bring you to Ghost King Lan Ling? Furthermore, how do you know if the Lan Ling Ghost King I brought you to is the real Lan Ling Ghost King?" She was deliberately making things difficult for Zhang Ling. Who would have thought that Ling would actually think about it carefully before nodding and saying, "You're right. My master told me that if I ask for help, I have to prepare a gift. Although you're not human, I'm sure the logic is the same." She looked around and took out an exquisite jade buckle from her waist. "This jade buckle is a present that my master personally found for my coming-of-age ceremony. It's a Dharma artifact that can nurture spiritual bodies. It should be very useful for a ghost like you." As she spoke, she raised her head and asked Gu Shangyin, "I'll use this to exchange for information about Ghost King Lan Ling. How about that?" She was very generous, Gu Shangyin thought in her heart. "As for your second question," Zhang Ling frowned. Zhang Ling frowned and seemed a little troubled. Then, she looked at Gu Shangyin's face and suddenly became clear. "You're so good-looking. You definitely won't lie to me." Gu Shangyin, what kind of logic was that if she was beautiful, she wouldn't lie? Gu Shangyin was stunned for a rare moment. However, She quickly regained her calm expression and didn't even notice Zhang Ling-er. Chapter 1161. Zhang Ling-er only saw a figure flash in front of her. The red-clothed female ghost, who was several feet away from her, suddenly appeared beside her. She didn't have the cold feeling of an ordinary ghost. Zhang Ling-er even smelled a faint fragrance from her body. She didn't know what kind of perfume it was, but it smelled very good. Zhang Ling-er was a little greedy. She took a deep breath and completely ignored the other party's unusual speed. How could an ordinary ghost have that kind of speed? You really think I'm pretty? Gu Shengyin bent down to Zhang Ling-er. She was taller than the other party. When she bent down slightly, she was face to face with Zhang Ling-er. Their faces were only an inch apart. Facing Gu Shengyin's cold and charming face at such a close distance, Zhang Ling-er's face blushed. She completely forgot that the other party was a ghost she hated. Her mind was full of paste and she only felt that something was beating fast in her heart. After a while, she stepped back a few steps as if she had stepped on something. When she felt that the distance between her and the other party was normal, she looked at Gu Shengyin with a red face. You ghosts are all like this. Like this. She wanted to find a suitable adjective, but she suddenly found that she was at a loss for words. After a long time, Zhang Ling-er finally squeezed out a complete sentence. Are you so passionate? Gu Shengyin looked at her and raised the corner of her mouth. No, I'm only passionate about good-looking girls. Zhang Ling-er's face, which had just cooled down, turned red again because of her words. Obviously, the other party was a female ghost. Why was she blushing? Gu Shengyin looked at the other party's red face and thought that it should be nice to touch, but she looked at Zhang Ling-er regretfully. Forget it. She would probably be scared if she touched her. Zhang Ling-er took a few deep breaths and asked seriously, Do you really know where Ghost King Lanling is? Gu Shengyin nodded. Zhang Ling-er's eyes lit up. Then can you take me to find him? Gu Shengyin pretended to hesitate. It's not impossible. She looked at Zhang Ling-er's joyful eyes and asked, But why are you looking for Ghost King Lanling? Fortunately, Zhang Ling-er was not that stupid. She said, Just take me there. Gu Shengyin said casually, Then do you know where we are? Ling-er was just randomly found. How could he know? Gu Shengyin said, The hall in front of you is Ghost King Lanling's palace. Zhang Ling-er's expression turned solemn when she heard this. However, she quickly realized that something was amiss. Just now, the red-dressed female ghost seemed to have come from this hall. Zhang Ling-er looked at Gu Shengyin suspiciously. Gu Shengyin allowed her to size him up. The girl finally realized that something was wrong. Unexpectedly, the next moment, Zhang Ling-er looked at her with understanding. I was wondering how a beautiful female ghost like you could be an ordinary ghost. You came out of Ghost King Lanling's palace and said that you can find him. You are Ghost King Lanling's concubine, right? Gu Shengyin, your analysis seems to make sense. I have nothing to say. Zhang Ling-er continued, Don't worry. I don't need you to take me there. You just need to tell me where Ghost King Lanling is. I will find him myself. I promise I won't tell you. Gu Shengyin said faintly, There's no need. She's right beside you. From 8 to 6 to 5 in the morning, I am already a useless twig. I am a short twig. I will lie flat and let you hit me. It is best to hit me with monthly votes. Don't be gentle, hit me with all your strength. I will see you in the morning, meowj. Chapter 1162. Hearing Gu Shengyin's words, Zhang Ling-er's first reaction was to look behind her. There was nothing behind her. Zhang Ling-er turned around and looked at Gu Shengyin suspiciously. You're lying to me. There's no Lanling Ghost King. As she spoke, her eyes suddenly widened. She stared at Gu Shengyin in disbelief. Gu Shengyin looked at her calmly. A possibility flashed through Zhang Ling-er's mind. She couldn't help but swallow her saliva. That Lan Ling Ghost King, is it a man or a woman? She looked at Gu Shengyin and asked. Gu Shengyin didn't answer. She only asked back, what do you think? Zhang Ling Er's body tensed up. In this mysterious place, there was a beautiful woman whose strength couldn't be determined. Also, she had only heard of the Lan Ling Ghost King. She heard her own voice saying dryly, legend has it that the Lan Ling Ghost King likes to wear red clothes and a sinister silver mask on his face. People can't see his face clearly. Her words came to a halt. This was because Gu Shengyin had taken out an extremely delicate silver mask at some point in time and gently covered his face with it. She looked at Zhang Ling with a smile in her eyes. Like this? A gust of wind came out of nowhere and blew her messy black hair. Against the silver mask, there was a murderous intent. Zhang Ling couldn't help but take 2 steps back. She used the sword in her hand to block in front of her. She felt that all this development was really out of her expectations. You're the Lan Ling Ghost King? Zhang Ling Er's voice was a little sharp because of her nervousness. Gu Shengyin felt that it was about time. She put away the smile on her face. In an instant, the aura that she deliberately restrained poured out and swept towards Zhang Ling Zhang Ling couldn't help but take a few steps back. So strong. She looked at the woman in red in front of her in shock. She still looked the same. But at this time, Zhang Ling could no longer connect her with the beautiful woman she saw before. So strong. Zhang Ling had never felt such a strong aura even from her master. This feeling was like a harmless little beast raising its head and staring at an ancient ferocious beast whose eyes were closed and whose aura was like a mountain. The other party was like an insurmountable mountain. In front of the other party, she couldn't even summon the slightest thought of going against the other party. It's real. So, young lady, what brings you here to see me? Gu Shengyin's slow voice rang in Zhang Ling Er's ears. Zhang Ling was speechless. What was she going to say? He said that he came here to punish evil and uphold justice. He wanted to find Ghost King Lan Ling and have a duel with her. It would be best if he could defeat her and make a name for himself. How stupid was she to think that she could challenge the Lan Ling Phantom Lord, who ruled over tens of thousands of ghosts in the Lan Ling district. Some things, no matter how many times the elders said it, she wouldn't listen. Only when she experienced it herself could she understand the vastness of the world. She was really just a frog at the bottom of a well. Gu Shengyin looked at Zhang Ling Er's expression with interest. This silly girl. She must not know what she was thinking. It was all written on her face. Chapter 1163. Zhang Ling tried to come up with an excuse in her mind. Got it. Her eyes lit up and she started to speak more fluently. I heard that Lan Ling Ghost King is very powerful and can command thousands of ghosts. I respect you a lot, so I want to come and meet you. She looked at Gu Shengyin with sincerity, trying to make her believe that what she said was true. The corners of Gu Shengyin's lips curled into a mysterious smile. Her smile was very soft, but it was clearly heard by Zhang Ling Er. Ling Er's eyes uncontrollably fell on the silver mask covering her face. From this angle, only the beautiful outline of her face and the perfect shape of her red lips could be seen. Even so, it did not stop people from imagining what kind of stunning beauty was under this eyesore of a mask. Rumors have misled me. Zhang Ling thought bitterly. According to the rumors, Lan Ling Ghost King was a ferocious ghost who liked to wear red clothes and a ferocious mask on her face. This was because outsiders rarely saw this Ghost King, and this was the only information they knew about him. But this did not stop them from imagining. So, in their imaginations, the image of Lan Ling Ghost King must be ferocious. The character of Lan Ling Ghost King must be ferocious. The appearance of Lan Ling Ghost King must be ferocious. The gender of Lan Ling Ghost King must be male. Really? A soft voice interrupted Zhang Ling Er's thoughts. Zhang Ling could not help but raise her head and found that the other party had come to her side. Gu Shengyin gently lifted Zhongling Er's chin. Don't lie to me. You should know that my character is not very good. His words were clearly soft and did not have any deterrent force, but Ling Er shuddered. She tried to keep her face calm and showed a smile. How can it be? I've never lied. Really? Gu Shengyin bent down and pressed her face down on Zhongling Er. She was getting closer and closer, and they were about to touch. Zhongling Er could not move at all and closed her eyes. A strange thought suddenly popped up in her mind. This ghost king Lon Ling, don't tell me he likes girls? Open your eyes and look at me. The voice was so close that she couldn't help but open her eyes. The other party was very close to her, but they didn't touch. Ling Er's mind was completely attracted by the other party's ink-black eyes. She had never seen such beautiful eyes before. The other party's eyes were like the purest and darkest night sky. They seemed to have the most fatal attraction, making people sink into them and unable to extricate themselves. Zhongling Er's face reddened visibly. But in the next moment, the other party's cold voice caused her body to tremble. Little Miss Ling Er, I'm sure you don't know that I have a secret technique called heart-searching. It was as if a basin of cold water was poured down from the top of his head. Ling Er's entire body stiffened, probing the heart. Wouldn't that mean that the other party knew all of his thoughts? Then this ghost king Lon Ling must have known the reason for his visit. Oh no, oh no. Xiao Ling Er closed her eyes in despair. This time, she would definitely not let him off. Why did you close your eyes? Zhongling Er opened her eyes and looked at Gu Shengyin, who had already let go of her, with surprise. She didn't kill him. Chapter 1164. Zhongling Er opened her eyes in a daze and looked at Gu Shengyin with a puzzled expression. You want to know why this king let you go? Gu Shengyin asked. Zhongling Er nodded. Wasn't it said that Ghost King Lon Ling had a cruel personality? Zhongling Er suddenly came back to her senses. That's right, that was just a rumor. Even men and women could be mistaken. Who could guarantee that the other rumors weren't groundless? In other words, the real Ghost King Lon Ling was actually a gorgeous woman in red? Gu Shengyin slowly curled her lips into a smile. Seeing her smile, Zhongling Er suddenly had a bad premonition. Sure enough, in the next moment, she heard Ghost King Lon Ling softly spit out a few words. That's because this king is always extra merciful to beautiful little beauties. Zhongling Er realized that ever since she met this Ghost King Lon Ling, her face had been constantly blushing. It's really because this this ghost, spoke too much. She grew up in a Taoist sect and practiced Taoist techniques. All the disciples she saw were refined and courteous. When had she ever seen someone speak so bluntly? Gu Shengyin still wanted to tease her, but she suddenly sensed something and her heart trembled. She said to Zhongling Er, who was still in a daze, "This king is in a good mood this time, so I won't argue with you. Little girl, you should be more thoughtful in the future." Zhongling Er saw her flick her sleeve and her body uncontrollably floated into the air. When she regained her senses, she found that she was already on a hillside. After looking for a long time, Zhongling Er found that she was outside a town in the human world. She had stayed in this place for 2 days before going to the Yin-Yang world. Did I manage to escape? Did Ghost King Lon Ling really let her go so easily? Zhongling Er still had a trace of disbelief. She felt that everything she experienced before was like a dream. After Gu Shengyin sent Zhongling Er away, her expression calmed down. She coldly spoke to a certain place in the void. "Esteemed guest, why don't you show yourself?" As her voice fell, the gray sky of the Yin and Yang world seemed to be torn open by some invisible force. A golden light shone through the opening, illuminating half the sky. Many ghosts were shocked by this scene and came out to see what was going on. As for Gu Shengyin, she was trapped in a warm embrace. Gu Shengyin. She couldn't even match up to him in terms of martial prowess. Bad review. The system, who had received a bad review for no reason, was speechless. The system said, "This world is set up like this. What can I do? I'm also in despair." Gu Shengyin. Where did you learn this nonsense from? The system sighed, "The internet in the modern human world is really a good thing. I feel like my knowledge has been greatly supplemented." Gu Shengyin. She no longer paid attention to the system that seemed a little strange, and turned to look at a certain someone who was hugging her waist. No, it was a certain phoenix. Let go. When the peerlessly handsome man heard this, not only did he not let go of her hand, he even tightened his grip. Their bodies were pressed tightly against each other. Gu Shengyin could feel someone gently blowing into her ear. "You were so gentle to that human girl just now. Why did you become so fierce to me?" The late third watch. I hate Chinese New Year. 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 There will be a lot of people coming to the house, and everyone will come over to take a look when they hear that I'm writing. What can I do? I'm also in despair. Finally, as usual, I ask for a wave of monthly tickets. See you in the wee hours of the morning. Chapter 1165. Feng Lin held the woman in red in his arms and sighed in satisfaction without leaving a trace. He looked down again and felt that the red mask on Gu Shengyin's face was really an eyesore. He reached out and gently stroked it. The mask, which was as strong as a high-grade magic tool, instantly shattered and fell down. Gu Shengyin, does this mask have a grudge against you? However, her character was set as the cold and beautiful ghost king Lan Ling, so she could only glare at him coldly and then said in a cold voice, "What do you want to do?" Feng Lin smiled gently. "I want to hug you, isn't it obvious?" As soon as he finished speaking, he met the angry glare of the person in his arms. "Don't look at me like that, I won't be able to resist kissing you." Feng Lin didn't care about the threat in her eyes. Gu Shengyin. She was still glaring at him. So the phoenix who did what he said leaned over and kissed her. While kissing, he didn't forget to imprison the movements of the person in his arms. The most shameful thing was that after this phoenix took advantage of her, he still felt wronged. He frowned and seemed to be very unhappy looking at Gu Shengyin. "Why? You smiled so happily at that human girl. Don't think I didn't see that you were deliberately seducing her." His tone was indignant, as if he was really angry. Gu Shengyin. Was this phoenix retarded? She didn't believe that he couldn't see that she was playing with Ling. Feng Lin did see it, but even so, he still felt unhappy. Because Lan Ling hugged Linger and used her hand to lift her chin, the two of them were so close. The world said that the phoenix was the most beautiful and auspicious beast, but few people knew that the phoenix was very possessive of its mate. Yes, mate. Feng Lin, who had been single for thousands of years, couldn't move his eyes away from the first time he saw Gu Shengyin in the wild forest. He knew that feeling. It was the legendary love at first sight. He had seen countless beauties, but no beauty could give him such a strong feeling. One look was 10,000 years. One look was a lifetime. He had decided on her. Feng Lin looked at Gu Shengyin affectionately. "Lan Ling, you said that you will give extra preferential treatment to beautiful things. What about me?" Speaking of this, he seemed to be quite proud. "I don't know how many times stronger my human form is than that human girl's. I dare say that there is no one in this world who can compare to me. Even if there is, there are only a few." This was the phoenix's confidence. His bragging wasn't over yet. "My phoenix form is even more dazzling. In the entire phoenix race, you won't be able to find a phoenix that's more beautiful than me." The two of them were still hugging each other tightly. Feng Lin hugged Gu Shengyin and pressed his cheek against the side of her face. He muttered in a low voice, "Look, I'm so good-looking and I like you so much. Do you want to consider me?" Gu Shengyin was amused. Her emotions did not seem to be affected by Phoenix's words as she calmly said, "Let me go first." Feng Lin said warily, "Promise me first that you won't be angry." Gu Shengyin snorted coldly. "What do you think?" Feng Lin looked at Gu Shengyin and took a step back. Then you promise not to do anything. Gu Shengyin smiled. Okay. Feng Lin was relieved and removed the restriction on Gu Shengyin. Chapter 1166. Almost at the moment when the restriction was lifted, Gu Shengyin's eyes turned cold, and she raised her leg to kick Feng Lin fiercely. She promised not to make a move, but she didn't promise not to make a move. Unfortunately, that calf was caught in the arms of a certain someone who was already prepared. Feng Lin looked at her and smiled brightly. I really know Lan Ling. Gu Shengyin was once again suppressed and couldn't move. She could only say coldly, Lan Ling is not for you to call? Feng Lin used force and pulled her into his arms. He said with a smile, if it's not Lan Ling, what should I call you? Lan Lan. Ah Ling. Ling Ling. Gu Shengyin. He was so thick-skinned, okay? She said sarcastically, it's said that the Phoenix clan is born as a divine clan and is incomparably noble. Their appearance and bearing are all perfect, I think. She looked up and down at Feng Lin, and the meaning in her eyes was self-evident. She thought that her words would have some effect, but it turned out that she thought too much. Hearing her words, Feng Lin only chuckled twice and then said, don't worry. So that's why those guys are all single now. No immortal would like something as perfect as a template. Gu Shengyin. What he said was so reasonable that I was speechless. However, on the surface, her face was even paler. She was obviously angry. Seeing her like this, Feng Lin knew that it was about time. If this continued, she would probably really get angry. A red light flashed in his hand, and Gu Shengyin found that the restriction that had been imprisoning her had disappeared. Feng Lin originally tensed his body to prevent her from suddenly attacking, but he didn't expect that Gu Shengyin just moved away from him at the first moment when she could move freely. She didn't do anything else. Looking at Feng Lin's expression, Gu Shengyin said sarcastically, don't worry, Your Highness of the Phoenix clan, I'm not an overconfident ghost. I know that I'm not a match for you, but I still want to fight you. What else can I do other than give you something to use against me? Feng Lin frowned. My name is Feng Lin, not Your Highness of the Phoenix clan. Gu Shengyin snorted coldly, obviously not intending to pay attention to him. Feng Lin rolled his eyes and said, if you don't call me Feng Lin, you can call me Lin. Gu Shengyin rolled her eyes in her heart. She thought, if I do as you say, if you don't call me that, I'll kiss you again. A low and hoarse voice entered Gu Shengyin's ears. Gu Shengyin's ears quivered. She looked at Feng Lin in disbelief. It was hard to imagine that a phoenix could be so thick-skinned. Feng Lin calmly allowed her to size him up. In the end, he even asked, how is it? Are you satisfied with what you see? Humph. Gu Shengyin flicked his sleeves and left. Behind her, the door to the hall slammed shut. Feng Lin did not chase after him. Instead, he stood on the empty ground and revealed a mysterious smile. She was indeed worthy of being his partner. Her temper was really too fierce. Not far away, there were many ghosts hiding in the dark and watching this place. They came here not long after Feng Lin made a move, but they could only stay far away and did not dare to get close. As a phoenix, Feng Lin was surrounded by the phoenix true fire. Ghost King Lan Ling's cultivation was deep and he was not afraid, but these ghosts did not dare to touch him at all. The shock he gave her today was probably big enough. It was better to give her some time to recover and come again next time. With this thought in mind, Feng Lin's figure flashed and turned into a golden flame, once again tearing the Yin-Yang world apart. Chapter 1167. I will be back, Lan Ling. The magnetic voice resounded throughout the entire Yin-Yang world. Gu Shengyin. The surrounding ghosts and monsters all looked at the tightly shut palace door with astonishment. They were all wondering what kind of story there was between Lord Lan Ling and the phoenix that had just left. It couldn't be anything bad. Some of the gossipy ghosts started to speculate in their hearts. That phoenix's tone just now was so intimate, and the two of them were so close to each other. Could it be that Lord Ling finally decided to find a partner after being lonely for so many years? This was a big deal. The ghosts all expressed that they would definitely share this with their friends when they returned. As a result, the news of Lord Ling being together with a phoenix spread throughout the entire Yin-Yang realm. Gu Shengyin didn't know that her gossip had already spread throughout the entire Yin-Yang world. In any case, no one would tell her about this matter. As for the system wouldn't find anything wrong with it if it didn't cause any substantial harm to the host. Now, Gu Shengyin was having a deep conversation with the system. Gu Shengyin asked, "System, are you really just a program without any emotions?" She was a little suspicious. The system's reaction a few times told her that things weren't that simple. A white light flashed across the system's body. "I'm sorry, host. Insufficient authority. The system is unable to answer." Gu Shengyin, this system, can't it change its tactics? Can't we have a pleasant conversation? On the other side, Zhu Ling returned to the sect in a daze. Her master almost fainted from anger when she saw the message she left behind. In addition to her anger, she couldn't hide her worry. This little disciple was really spoiled by her. She actually dared to do such an ungrateful thing. Who was Ghost King Ling? Even he had to be respectful and courteous when facing her. Ling this little girl who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, dared to directly carry a sword to the so-called exorcised demons and demons? Zhang Ling was the master. Originally, he didn't think that Zhang Ling could find the entrance to the Yin-Yang world, so he wasn't very worried. He only ordered a few disciples to go to the surrounding towns to find people. Zhang Ling still had some ability. If it was just an ordinary human town, she wouldn't be at a disadvantage. But after 10 days, when there was still no news from his little disciple, his master became anxious and almost went to visit Ling Ghost King personally. At this time, a disciple came to report that Ling had returned. As soon as Zhang Ling saw her master, she immediately knelt down. The person who was originally prepared to vent his anger was shocked to see his little disciple who had always been mischievous sincerely admit his mistake and apologize. He even asked to go to the cliff of reflection to cultivate in seclusion for 3 years. His heart turned into deep worry. Ling she couldn't have been wrong these few days outside, right? He even suspected that his little disciple's body had been taken over. Under her master's interrogation, Zhang Ling finally hesitantly told him about her previous experience. Of course, she hid the scene where Ghost King Ling was suspected to be a hooligan. After listening to her master's heart, which had finally calmed down, became anxious again. His disciple actually met Ghost King Ling. Chapter 1168. Listening to Zhang Ling's narration, her master also fell silent. Like everyone else, he had never seen the legendary Ghost King Ling before. When he heard that the other party was a female ghost and a rare beautiful ghost, his expression was already a little strange. When he heard that the other party did not make things difficult for his little disciple at all and even let her return safely in the end, Zhang Ling's master's gaze could be described as seeing a ghost. But he understood the disciple he had raised since she was young. Zhang Ling was not lying. Her master originally thought that his little disciple was so sensible now. Since she already knew her mistake, then the punishment could be lighter. But this time, Zhang Ling seemed to have changed into a different person. She was determined to do as he said. She said, "Master, this time when I went out, I was just a frog at the bottom of a well. It's ridiculous that I was so short-sighted in the past. I thought that my meager strength was already a peak expert. Master, please fulfill your disciple's desire to improve." His disciple had already said so much. As a master, how could he say anything else? Her master sighed and said, "Fine, since this is your own request, I will agree to it. There's only one rule. After going up this cliff of reflection, you can't come out until you've reached a certain age. The cliff of reflection is bitterly cold. Don't regret it when the time comes." Zhang Ling's expression was firm. Master, please don't worry. I will be responsible for my own words. Her master nodded when he saw this. Although he was a little reluctant to send his delicate little disciple to the cliff of reflection since she was young, he was more gratified in his heart. There was nothing to say about Ling Er's talent. It was just that her temper was a little impetuous. She had never been able to truly calm down and cultivate. This trip to Lan Ling seemed to have turned out to be a blessing in disguise. The Phoenix Clan. The Phoenix Clan was a natural-born divine clan. They lived in the extreme west of the 9 heavens. That was where the sun set and the light would never disappear. They were a clan that was always favored by the light. Feng Lin sat lazily on a parasol tree. The sun was about to set. He even felt that if he stretched out his hand, he would be able to touch the scorching temperature. Feng Lin. Someone from the same clan called out to him. Feng Lin turned his head and saw a figure wearing a golden red robe slowly walking towards him. The figure was tall and graceful. For some reason, Feng Lin recalled what Gu Shengyin had said to him earlier. That was true. Most of the phoenixes in the Phoenix clan were elegant and graceful, and they were basically all single. However, the reason was not because Feng Lin said that he was not popular, but because the Phoenix clan standards were too high. While he was thinking, the other party had already arrived in front of him. A clear voice entered his ears. I heard that you gave away your feather? The phoenix had many feathers, but there was only one that was worth mentioning at this moment. Every mature phoenix would give birth to the most beautiful and resplendent feather, and that feather could only be possessed by the person they had acknowledged from the bottom of their hearts. Once someone accepted the phoenix's feather, it meant that the other party had accepted the phoenix's confession of love. Feng Lin raised his eyebrows. Yes, I gave it to someone. What's wrong? The phoenix frowned and asked doubtfully, since he accepted your feather, why didn't he follow you to the land of Far West? Following the phoenix to meet the clansman was also a necessary ritual. 4:00 in the morning, 4:00 in the morning tomorrow. Today is my mother's birthday. I wish my goddess a happy birthday and forever young, so I won't ask for tickets today. But I know that you guys love me so much, so you'll definitely come and smash me, right? Chapter 1169. Feng Lin raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything. He was too embarrassed to say that the other party didn't seem to know what the feather meant. With her temper, if she knew what the use of this feather of the phoenix was, she would probably destroy it immediately. Although the phoenix was very curious about the partner who could gain the approval of the arrogant Feng Lin, he didn't ask much when he saw that Feng Lin didn't want to say more. He left after saying a few words. Phoenixes were arrogant by nature, so they wouldn't force him to say anything. Meanwhile, Gu Shengyin received an inexplicable notification from the system that the mission had been successfully completed. What's going on? She was confused. The system replied, the mission target of this world, Ling is no longer a threat to the host. Without Ling the host will continue the original fate of Ghost King Lan Ling. After the 6-9 heavenly tribulation, the host will receive the decree of the god's court and be conferred the title of Lord Lan Ling. Gu Shengyin nodded and didn't say anything else. Without the pressure of the mission, Gu Shengyin started to cultivate and prepare for the 6-9 heavenly tribulation in a few years' time. The system forgot to mention an accident, which was Feng Lin of the Phoenix race. In the original plot, this noble prince of the Phoenix race didn't have much interaction with Ghost King Lan Ling. Lan Ling, this is the wine I saved for you from the King of God's banquet. He was smart. He knew that if he didn't find a reason, the other party wouldn't like him. And what reason could be better than the wine that Ghost Lord Lan Ling loved the most? Therefore, every time Feng Lin came, he would bring a pot of wine to the yin-yang world of Lan Ling. After he finished drinking the wine, he would be mercilessly chased out by Gu Shengyin. After a while, all the ghosts in the yin-yang world knew that there was a phoenix who was very attentive to their Lord Lan Ling. Gu Shengyin's attitude of not acknowledging him after drinking the wine, even some of her subordinates in the yin-yang world couldn't bear to look at it. Lord Lan Ling, you see, every time you drink Lord Feng Lin's wine, it's your fault. The one who spoke was Ah Jin, who had been serving Gu Shengyin. Ever since Wei Wei was injured, she had been sent by Gu Shengyin to follow the green-robed Taoist priest. She had not returned yet. Jin didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning was clear. Lord Lanling, aren't you a little too much? To be honest, Jin did not understand. Her impression of Lord Lanling had always been cold and aloof. She didn't seem like someone who would do something that required a certain level of shamelessness. Jin did not hear Gu Shengyin's reply. She lowered her head and felt a lingering fear in her heart. She wondered if Lord Lanling would blame her for this. Then, he thought that he was being a busybody. How could he have a say in what Lord Lanling wanted to do? The more she thought about it, the more uneasy she felt. She almost knelt down in front of Gu Shengyin and asked for forgiveness. Unexpectedly, she heard Gu Shengyin laugh from above. Lord Lanling laughed? Jin was so shocked that he didn't even care about etiquette. He lifted his head and looked at Gu Shengyin. Lord Lanling was really laughing. And it wasn't a cold laugh. It was the kind of laugh that he really found something interesting. Gu Shengyin smiled and looked at Jin. One of us is willing to be beaten and the other is willing to be beaten. Why are you so worried? He had never heard Lord Lanling speak to him in such a casual tone. Jin looked at Gu Shengyin's expression. When she mentioned Lord Phoenix, her face didn't have the coldness and disgust that she usually had when facing him. On the contrary, she was very calm and even had a smile on her face. One of them was willing to be beaten and the other was willing to be beaten. God. Jin felt that he seemed to have discovered something incredible. There was a slight change here. The Marquis Lanling was changed to Lord Lanling. As for why, Gao Lengji felt that Lord sounded more pretentious. Chapter 1170. This, Lord Lanling probably doesn't hate His Highness from the Phoenix clan as much as everyone thinks, right? On the contrary, looking at Lord Lanling's appearance, it's likely that His Highness doesn't just have an unrequited love. Although she doesn't know why her lord is acting so cold, Jin's heart is in her throat at this moment. Why would Lord Lanling let her know about such a secret? She's a bit nervous. Gu Shengyin looks at the female ghost's stiff body below, feeling helpless in her heart. She can roughly guess Jin's thoughts, but even so, she's even more speechless. When she didn't tell her, the other party had to worry and admonish her. Well, now that she's told her, the other party is even more worried. Alright, if there's nothing else, you can leave. With Ghost King Lanling's temperament, it's impossible for her to personally explain anything to a subordinate. Jin has already been frightened enough today, so Gu Shengyin doesn't intend to continue scaring her, although she didn't intend to scare her at all. In another month, it will be the Yinyang world's annual ghost city. In the past, the Yinyang world was completely separated from the human world. Unless it's a cultivator like that blue-clothed Taoist priest, ordinary people can't enter it at all. But the ghost city is different on this day. A clever connection will appear between the Yinyang world and the human world. Of course, this doesn't mean that everyone can see the Yinyang world and enter it. It's just that some people with innate Yin physiques and a few specific people can coincidentally enter it. The ghost stories circulating in the human world come from this. On the day of the ghost city, there's a rule in the Yinyang world that no conflict or bloodshed is allowed. This is the most important festival for ghosts, and no one is allowed to disrupt it. Of course, ghosts don't like humans coming to their world at this time. Usually, if such an unlucky person really appears, they'll prank them by showing their real body to scare them, and then invite them out. As for what that pitiful human will think after waking up, that's not something the ghosts will consider. All the ghosts are looking forward to the ghost city. On that day, all the ghosts would transform into their most beautiful appearances, and the entire Yinyang world would be lit up with brilliant lights. This is the most important festival for all the ghosts. Soon, the day arrived. Gu Shengyin, as the ghost king who ruled over this part of the Yinyang world, naturally had to dress up and attend. She changed out of her usual red dress and put on the dress that the maidservants had carefully prepared for her. It was still a bright red color, but it was much more serious and formal. The long outer robe was embroidered with gold, and the back of the robe spread on the white jade floor. It was noble and gorgeous. Her casually scattered hair was tied up neatly with a golden hairpin, and a golden crown was placed on her head to symbolize her status. She sat in the 8-treasure fragrant carriage, looking at the bustling scene around her like a king inspecting her territory. All the taverns on the streets were hung with bright lanterns. The ghosts that usually didn't go out were all dressed up and walking out. The taverns were filled with customers drinking wine. Countless vendors were hawking their wares, and many girls in beautiful clothes were holding hands as they strolled through the streets with lanterns. If they didn't know in advance, who would have thought that such a scene would actually be a ghost market? Tencent's lousy backstage is crashing. I spent a long time before I could post it. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.